Okay. Start streaming here too. Okay, we should be live both on Twitch and YouTube now. Pretty cool. Okay, all right. Okay, what are we doing today? So I want to do a feature that's been kind of in the back of my mind for a while. And that's the ability to change renderers. Oh yeah, let me grab YouTube's chat. Here. Sure, here. Pop out chat. And wait. Put over here something. Should be on top. And this one should be on top too. Okay. That works. Okay, hopefully we don't have any stream issues today, connection issues. So we'll see. All right. So let's pull changes just in case you don't have anything. New branch, feature runtime renderer configuration. That's a mouthful. And so basically, we currently have some settings in the app that you can use whenever you are, whenever you start the application. Here you have anti-aliasing, and that's basically it. What I want to do is introduce, we are exposing here a renderer module over here. We're exposing renderer in overlay. Wait, where is the actual renderer? Here. So what I want to do is I want to instead have a renderer module in the root crate. Should it be in the root crate? Should it be? That's a good question. Should it be here? Should it be? Probably we don't want it here, right? Yeah, that's true. Really want it. What do we want? So the idea here is I want to introduce some renderer settings here so that you can set some targeted, like you can set the rendering settings when you start the app, but then we're going to reuse that struct to create a task that allows us to change those settings at runtime. That's a bit the idea. So the tasks actions are in runtime lib. In runtime lib, I think, is what has the action. So we'll probably need to put the settings here or in core. I would probably think that maybe in core that would make sense since runtime doesn't actually depend on graphics. And I really don't want to make runtime depend on graphics because I think that graphics depends on runtime or not. No, it doesn't. Okay, so either way would work, but Okay, it seems like Twitch is working well. Wow, the latency is super low in Twitch. That's cool. So what should we do? We already have some graphic settings over here. I guess we could make runtime depend on graphics. That wouldn't be a huge deal. The anti-aliasing strategy that will be used for triangle primitives. By default, it is known. File size of text will be set to 16. Here we have I wonder we should expose. Should we expose the MSAA configuration directly, or should we instead expose more understandable settings for? Because for example, maybe you want anti-aliasing enabled, but every renderer has a different way of doing that, right? Here we're saying MSAA times 2. So I'm not sure. Maybe we should just have a couple settings here that are standard and high. I don't even know if you can actually configure this. Or like, why would you actually change the default MSA? I think that the default is times 4 right now. What are we even using? None here. But we are... Where are we actually turning this into graphics settings? Is it here? Anti-aliasing, it's not here. Compositor? Here I'm passing the graphics settings. But I already have this. Maybe in actual application program. Is it here? Settings. Run with, yeah, here. Yeah, so we are basically hard coding times 4. And you cannot really change this in any way. So I'm kind of wondering, do we even want this? Do we even want an anti-aliasing setting where you can control the actual quality of the anti-aliasing? I think that maybe just a boolean makes sense for most renderers. Or at the very least for the graphic settings themselves. Yeah, so let's just change this to a boolean. Because that's what we are using here. By default, it is disabled. I think that makes sense. Another thing that I want to add here. So it should be settings anti-aliasing. I can see the errors. I put the chat here. Maybe. Where is this defined? Oh, GPU settings. This is the graphics. Let's go with bool. fact, here in wgpu settings, it makes sense to have that, I guess. We can actually move the anti-aliasing strategy to wgpu. Right, maybe? Maybe. Let's see if that makes sense. Let's move graphics source anti-aliasing to wgpu source anti-aliasing here. And then in graphics lib, I'm gonna get rid of the module anti-aliasing. And here we're gonna add it. Since this is pretty this is pretty much very local to the render itself. GPU engine, just create anti-aliasing. Yeah, so here if settings anti-aliasing, then we do use 4, else not. So we're gonna move the MSAA one level in, well, one level deeper. Okay. iGPU anti-aliasing. Is it aliasing, aliasing? I don't even know. Anti-alias, right? Anti-aliasing, I think. Okay. All right, so now we have this here set to true. All right, that makes sense. There's another thing I would like to set, and is the backend used, which is important. I'm also not even sure the default font and the default text size should be part of the graphics settings themselves. Maybe, probably. Yeah, probably. Yeah, probably. That makes sense. So another thing I want to add here is the backend. So we have two things. We have wgpu, we have tiny-skia. Those are the two backends we have available. But then for wgpu, we also have different technologies you may want to use. So you have Vulkan, OpenGL, DirectX 12, Metal. Ideally, you would like to be able to select which graphics backend you want to use if you're using wgpu. Not only the renderer, but also the backend itself. So we have a name clash here where we normally use renderer and backend as interchangeable words to mean either you're using the wgpu backend or you're using the tiny-skia backend. But the truth is that wgpu has backends as well. So you have backends of backends. And yeah, either we call this renderer, but we are already using the word renderer for another thing. I guess we could have a graphics backend, and then we could have the wgpu backend, and then that would probably make sense. So we're gonna have a backend type in the it defaults to auto. We're gonna have an auto mode. I guess. Yeah, probably that makes sense. I think we have to make it public because we're gonna have a submodule in there. But in on backend, clone, copy. So we're gonna have auto, also default. Double GPU. Well, actually, we want double GPU directly here. I would say GPU accelerated. CPU or software. Hardware. Software. Custom. Yeah, that maybe makes sense. So hardware would be double GPU. Software would be tiny-skia. And custom, this is so just in case there's a not sure this makes too much sense. Maybe we should just hard code double GPU and tiny-skia in here. Thing is that the graphics crate is meant to be generic over the graphics backend, so trying to think, how is this gonna work for renderer selection? So you say hardware, you will not be able to actually, from the application perspective, select a specific, I mean, you could use the custom. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Like what I'm thinking is, imagine I have an app and I want to specifically say, I want to use tiny-skia. I'll be able to say I want a software renderer, but I don't know, if you had multiple options in that case, let's say you had multiple software renderers available, it will pick, you won't control which one's gonna actually be picked. But you can always say custom and say tiny-skia with a label here. So that's fine, I guess. And here you can say, here's where we want to say this is a graphics API, I guess. But what is Vulkan Metal? Graphics and Compute API. Thing is that I cannot call this backend, right? Like I want something like API here, and then you can say auto as well. You can also say fallback. Best probably. You have Vulkan, OpenGL, Metal, Direct. Kind of want to see, I mean, double GPU does it with a bit flags, I think. It has like a backend flags struct. Is it a struct? No, it's an enum, but it's a bit flag enum. So you have empty, Vulkan, Metal, Direct X12, GL, and browser web GPU. Wonder how. I mean, clearly, if I ask for a browser web GPU natively, it's not gonna work. So this API can be used wrong. And if I ask for any of the other backends on web GPU on the web, it's not gonna work either. Well, I think GL is gonna work, WebGL as well. So that's interesting. So I'm thinking, should we do this? Should we make this? Oh wait, it's not a bitflags anymore. I think that they call it something else. Oh, backends here. So we make this. If we use bitflags for this, you'll be able to set. You'll be able to set multiple of these, and then it will choose whichever you want. Now, is it something we want? That level of control, I don't know. Like, will users want to be able to say either this one or this one? I think that if you're trying to control a specific rendering configuration, then you're choosing a specific backend. Hello there. How's it going, guys? Yeah, so let's go with an enum right now. The X12, direct X12. We're gonna use that for now. Vulkan API. I'm gonna copy these as docs with the permission of the wgpu folks. Please don't sue me. Metal API, Apple platforms. Direct 3D12, Windows, OpenGL, WebGL2. And then we're gonna also have WebGPU. Wasm browsers only. Let's use proper capitalization. Why not? Okay. So we want to expose backend here. So best would be this strategy that we currently have. That's the basically it tries to choose the best option for you. So it would be like when auto detect, right? Should I call it auto detect? Auto. I was gonna call it auto. But I don't know, best seems good. Like auto detect the best available fix API. Yeah, at runtime. GPU accelerated or hardware accelerated. How does it choose when there are multiple? What do you mean? That's up to the renderer implementation. So in the case of wgpu, when you ask for a device, I think, or an instance, let me see. So you got device here, where you actually create the thing. I think it's an instance. You have instance descriptor, and here, right, you have instance new. Create a new instance of wgpu. In this instance descriptor, you provide backends. And this is a set of flags you can set, right? So normally, right now we're passing, I think, primary, or we're passing all. I'm not sure which one we're passing. And that means that you provide all of these, and then wgpu will try to choose the backend for you. As fields for which backend CPU will choose during instantiation, and which DX12 shader compiler GPU will use. It's a special rule. If it's said GPU supported, this instance will only be able to create web GPU adapters. If you instead want to force use WebGL, yeah. So it's up to wgpu to figure out the best backend, right? And if wgpu fails to create a device, I think that there's an operation here somewhere. Request adapter, right? If this fails, if it returns known or whatever, because there's no adapter, there's no graphics adapter compatible for the things you ask. So let's say you don't have a GPU, then that will return known, and then we fall back to software. Yeah, normally it will prefer DirectX, yes, because the OpenGL backend of WGPU is not as good as DirectX, yeah. And also, why would you use? You would use the more modern API, right? But this is just in case. So this API, or this new task that I'm introducing, will allow you to actually override and say, no, I just want OpenGL. Even though I may have DirectX, I want to try OpenGL. So it will allow you to override the best approach, because sometimes the best choice is not the best you have. You know what I mean? For example, there are some drivers that say, yeah, I have a totally compliant Vulkan specification. I totally can support Vulkan. And then they don't. And it looks like crap, right? There's some glitches or some problem, and you're currently out of luck. You have to restart the app with an environment variable if you want to try CPU rendering, or you want to try OpenGL or whatever. You can't really easily change those things. But now you'll be able, from inside the application, to at the very least offer a way for users to change the strategy for rendering. Of course, the rendering has to be kind of not broken enough for the user to see the actual option, right? But we've had in Kraken NetSub, the application we ship at work, we've had users that had glitches that were minor, and an option to change the renderer would have actually helped. And instead of that, we have to tell them, oh, set up this environment variable, and it's not always easy to do so because they're not developers or whatever. And so just having a graphics option there, then it's also gonna allow you to change the graphics settings themselves, which currently have the default font, default text size, the anti-aliasing strategy. So you're going to be able to change all of this. Or, change this at runtime. But right now, you can't. You cannot change the default font after you've run the app, right? So maybe the user wants to set a font of their own, right? Or or increase the font size, the default font size, right? So you'll be able to override these things at runtime. That's the idea. think compile time it uses metal for a Mac OS if it detects it. Would that be best? So at compile time, yes, if you're compiling a Mac OS binary, it will link metal, right? And it definitely won't link DirectX 12 because it's not available on Mac OS. However, what we're talking about here is what if metal, for whatever reason, is not enabled? That's not the case in Mac OS. Mac OS is the easiest platform to target because you have a very standard set of hardware, right? And you have certain guarantee that it's going to run under a certain API, right? But if you're targeting Linux, for instance, or Windows, you have laptops that may not have GPUs, or they may be toasters. You may be even trying to run it on a Raspberry Pi. So right now you're kind of out of luck. If it chooses the worst case scenario is you have a GPU that's old, and it kind of implements Vulkan, but not really, and it says, yeah, give me Vulkan, I can draw, and it doesn't draw, right? Because it's not fully compliant. And then it either seg faults, crashes, or it simply doesn't render properly. And so at the very least, this will allow you to expose settings and control this from your user code. Right now, you can only do this through environment variables that are internally hard-coded. So that's the idea. That we're gonna do default here. A graphical backend, a hardware graphics API. Okay. I'm also live streaming on Twitch for the first time. Bitrate's pretty bad. Should I increase the bitrate here? Bitrate Twitch. It says it's 6,000. I think I read 6,000. Yeah, I don't know. Doesn't it say 6,000 here? Got no clue why it's red. Whatever. Does actually look good. Yeah, it doesn't look bad. Have we any dropped frames or anything? No, not dropped frames today. Okay. Anyways, where were we? Okay, yeah, here. Twitch bitrate is very low. You need to become a partner to get more, as far as I know. Yeah, but why is it red then? I mean, I'm using the recommended bitrate they're giving me, right? Let me see. 6,000 kbps red bitrate Twitch. You can stream above 6K. Ignore recommendation streaming platform in OBS. Yeah, I don't know. Well, welcome, our strike. What's up? Welcome to the freak show. I always struggle with writing documentation for actual modules. Like, what am I supposed to say here? A Wikipedia article. Should I copy a Wikipedia article of graphics backend? This is not it, right? Graphics API. Graphics library. Yeah, this is going to be a task. So it will return a result if it can't actually. Like if it can't change it, you know, it will just error, I think. And restore the old. Like what I have in mind is that what I'm gonna do for the task is I'm gonna completely drop the compositor and the renderer, and I'm just gonna recreate it from scratch, which I'm not sure is gonna work because, you know, can I even reuse the window that has already a renderer connected to it, right? I don't know. Sounds like probably not. There's probably some global state and shenanigans that we're gonna have to deal with here. So maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I hope it works. I'm hopeful. And I'm only gonna test it on X11, and then I'll let users yell at me if it doesn't work on the other platforms. Because, you know, everyone uses X11, right? Yeah, it ties to the surface, but the surface, I want to drop it anyways, right? It's the window that is going to be the thing that is reused. But, you know, if I have to recreate the whole window, then okay, well, all right, we'll do it. We'll recreate the window. We'll try. But I would expect it to work, you know. Okay, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. So what the hell do I even set here? I want to just copy paste this, you know. Graphical backends are designed to aid in rendering computer graphics to a monitor. Boom. Thank you, Wikipedia. Okay, so we got that. Now we're moving this. It's not copy. It's not copy. Right. Have this backend here. And I also have this candidate thing. Candidate? Where did I even get the candidate thing? Split candidate is empty. Oh, right. This is from the ICE backend. I guess we want to keep that. But I think this should be moved to the graphics settings. I can default. Yeah, let's implement default here manually. Yeah, we're not changing the defaults coded. That's already the current behavior. We want to let users change that default behavior while the application is running. Like disable anti-aliasing or change the default font, change the default text size, stuff like that. You can override this strategy by setting the iced backend environment variable. If you are using the default renderer, the available options are wgpu for the hardware accelerated backend. I think you need to tiny-skia for the software based backend. So basically I'm gonna check here. Well, if it's default. Wait, but if we set it to best. Yeah, this is not the default that we want to change. Yeah. We want to have this somewhere else. It's in the renderer fallback. This thing that I think that's what you want. So if it's default, you're gonna get the environment variable mbar okay backend else return self best, and then we're gonna use self custom backend to owned, I think. Yeah, that sounds good. So now we can just have a single match for this. I wonder if we can pass just a reference to settings instead. Probably. Over here. That's the settings. Remove the backend option. In fact, we can remove with backend altogether since new is now the only one. Okay. New. All right, that makes sense. Remove that. New. Yeah, here we're matching the settings backend here. Right, and now here we want to match on backend. It's either best or backend is, wait, do we have, let's import backend here. Or backend is custom tiny-skia. And let's add the, the other one as well. In fact, we can just say, we're not going to be able to match on this because it's a string. Is there a way to match on this thing? Here, preferred backend. We're just going to have a backend. Just create backend. Do do I really need to I don't want to do this. Is this even a possibility? Expected string, expected a pattern, found a method call. Oh, right, you cannot even do this. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I can kind of duplicate this and then have here if backend equals or backend equals that even work? Yeah, you can do match work. Yeah, that's the match cards, but we cannot like unify these two, fortunately. Now the problem is that settings cannot be turned into the wgpu settings, or business settings from IS. What is this new? This is tiny-skia settings. Well, I can clone, I guess. Can it move out? We don't move out. Okay. Settings backend. Settings from settings. This is wgpu. I don't know, maybe I can let's tiny-skia settings. Let's just do that. So backend best. Yeah. Same problem now. I guess. How can we do this? We could have settings backend matches wgpu. We could have like a little helper method here. Maybe. Backend. Wait, that's not what I wanted. Self backend. I want to have a into backend here. And I want to implement from string for backend. That's gonna be easy. It's gonna be nice. Custom or backend string self custom backend and also for a static string. In fact, for any string whatsoever. Okay. Now we can check if these two backends match. Let's call it target. So if both are best, they match. That's true. If the current's best, I think that if the current is best, then it matches. Like if any of them is best, it should automatically match. Maybe. Let's see. Right, so the idea of the custom string is that, oh well, I haven't actually documented it. Maybe it's not necessarily custom, or maybe more name. It's more like, so you can choose by name. So for example, maybe eventually you have two hardware accelerated graphics backends. So how do you choose that one, right? Sure, you won't be able to provide the API here, but well, yeah, that's interesting. I guess we could introduce API here too, but here we're gonna check if both match, maybe. Technically, we should check if one of them is best, but maybe I can just make it, just provide a string and whatever. Not get that fancy. Yeah. I mean, it will be tiny-skia, but it won't necessarily be here. Like here, the graphics crate, which is what we're changing, is generic. So tiny-skia uses this crate, but it's like ICE is renderer agnostic. Technically, you can write your own renderer. So this should work with custom renderers that someone could write. Like maybe someone writes a baby renderer, right? So the idea is that you can still benefit from this API even if you're not using the root crate. So we cannot say software is tiny-skia. It may or may not be. Someone else may come up with a different CPU implementation. They may be using this in their application. Turns true if the backend matches the given name. Is backend test or matches the given name. Let's go like that. Turn the error here. Does that work? I have a match here. Yeah, okay. Okay, then those will all be custom. So one will be the backend software we use. No, those won't be custom. we gotta check here as well. The software part. Yeah, you're right. Is that what you meant? Yeah, I missed that. If is this always the opposite way? No. You put first the variable. I'm just not. Yeah. So here, settings backend, clone. Okay. Right. So this is going to be new. I like that it simplifies our compositor trait a bit. That's a good sign. Okay, so here, this is expecting settings. Yeah. Okay. All right. This compiles. How about lint? Okay, doesn't seem like I'm dropping any frames today. So fingers crossed. Okay. It lints, it passes. All right. Now let's make sure that nothing's broken. Let's run the solar system or something. We haven't even started setting up the task yet. The fun hasn't even begun. All right. Yeah, it runs. Okay, so now this is with wgpu. You can see the spam of the log there. Now I'm gonna set tiny-skia here and gonna run the same thing. Okay, this is running tiny-skia. You can see it's like lagging like crazy. That's software rendering for you guys. But yeah, we need probably in release mode it's easier. I mean, it's better. Yeah, we actually researched that spam. It's fixed on the master branch of wgpu. I was gonna make a PR, but someone already fixed it. But they haven't released it yet. I'm hoping they do because that spam is crazy. Yeah, so in release mode, tiny-skia is smooth. That makes sense. That makes sense because we're using the CPU. However, yeah, CPU usage is probably way higher. Cool. So everything still works the same way. What doesn't work though is that in the past we could set stuff like that. We could do things like this where we could actually set multiple candidates for like a fallback strategy. So it would say double GPU, and if it doesn't work, then tiny-skia. But man, I don't really think that we need that kind of fanciness. And since users can now handle that themselves with this new task, you can build it in user space. Just leave the library alone. Let me leave. Let me live. Okay. So what do we want now? We want in runtime, we got an actual task to change. That's gonna be interesting because, no, wait. Yeah, that works. Okay. So we want a way to change the renderer. How can we call it? Swap renderer, change renderer, configure renderer. What's the good name for that? Switch, change. Let's find synonyms. Swap, interchange, substitute, switch, replace. That's gonna be, yeah, that would expose the implementation detail of the fact that we're gonna try to just completely replace the thing. I think it's maybe change renderer. Change renderer would make sense, right? Since we already have in window, we have change size or change stuff, change mode, don't we? Yeah, change icon. Yeah. My idea is to have a new renderer module here with the change task, maybe. Okay, let's go like that. Change renderer. And here we're gonna have graphics settings. Changes the renderer. Change renderer settings. Change settings. Config renderer. Changes the renderer settings. Look at me writing documentation. You will complain. Okay, now we don't have graphics here. We don't have graphics. In fact, so we're gonna just add them in runtime. Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't try to abstract too much. If, yeah, the moment that we start to have multiple actions, then we can make that module internally. But if it's the only action right now, let's just keep it there, like load font, right? Like I can have a font action, but then it's just, you just have another file, another module for a single enum and a variant, and you have a bunch of nesting that's unnecessary. Let's say, I would say maybe you need a couple, at the very least 2 actions of a renderer or 3, but I don't try to future-proof in general that much when I'm coming up with APIs. It's more like, I don't know if we'll have more. I can think of one right now, so, and even if I could think of them, just keep your code base as simple as possible, always, at every point, right? And then you'll always be able to change it, you know. Ice graphics workspace, true. Man, it bothers me that these like okay, like that. Okay. So now we have that, and we need, what does output do? Oh, right. Output gives the output, of course, if it has any. I don't think this doesn't have any output. So thinking we may actually want a channel here, because we want to send a result back with a graphics error. The renderer settings. Okay. Channel. Okay. Over here. Write f action change renderer. I think you normally do something like that. Yeah, channel, we don't need it. Okay. Now here's where the magic will happen. Indeed. Here's where the magic will happen. Let's just have a to-do here. Let's crash. And now let's create an example to test this stuff. We can either create a new example or just reuse an existing one. Should we reuse the solar system one? Like show a small, should we show a small pick list there to change the renderer? Or should we build a new one for that? I mean, maybe the solar system is a good test for that. We could put it in the tour, or we could put it in the game of life example. But I think the solar system could use it. Is there any other example? At the end of the tour? Maybe. 5 viewers on Twitch. Wow. Hello everyone on Twitch. Wasn't expecting that. First time. Solar system? Okay, solar system then. So where do we put it? We can use a stack to show it here in the bottom right corner, maybe like a pick list right here. I think that would make sense. So let's bring a stack and let's bring a pick list. And we are going to have, together with the state, the current backend chosen. Right. Let's create a backend here. It's gonna be wgpu, tiny-skia, something like that. And by default, it's gonna be, we're gonna start with best, right? The best strategy. Okay. Should I move this after the state? Probably. Let's move it down here. We're also going to need to implement a constant with all the choices. So we're going to start with best, wgpu, tiny-skia, not try from, tiny-skia. And we also need to implement the display trait for this. Let's implement debug clone copy as well. Should we have instead of wgpu like CPU and then have here Vulkan, OpenGL, Metal, DirectX 12? Maybe could do something like this and then reuse the graphics backend directly. That could be a possibility. So we could go into graphics backend over here and implement all here. Well, it's not going to be all because, of course, software isn't possible, but we can have hardware. We can have one for each of the APIs. Oh, by the way, we still need to select the API of, we need to select the API in wgpu and set the flags properly accordingly. We haven't done that yet. Just in case. Remind me if I forget. Metal. Let's see. Text 12. OpenGL. Should we keep WebGPU? Sure. Then self subware here. Okay. Should we call this all? Doesn't really make sense to call it all because it's not all the options. I don't know, how should we call it? Maybe available. Maybe known, maybe let's call it all, whatever. The possible, known, all known, known, possible known combinations of backend. All the possible known combinations. Yeah, I know that some may not be available based on the platform you're running, but we still want to test that, right? So if you choose metal, we're gonna get an error, and what we're gonna do is we're not gonna actually switch the pick list value. You know, it will just, maybe we can show an error in the solar system, like on the left side or something that says why it failed. but you should still be able to try. Like we cannot know. I mean, we could, for example, say metal only if, you know, you're compiling for Mac OS. But yeah, we could do that, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe you're running metal on Linux or something. I don't know if that's even possible, if it's only available on Apple devices. But maybe maybe you want to use the metal API and you have your own custom thing. I don't know. Yeah, I hate composite names. Hello, Aditya. So we get rid of that. Okay, now we want to expose. We want to expose in lib. We want to expose the backend somehow from graphics. So I'm trying to think, where should that be? So we want in runtime. We probably want a mod renderer here. We either want it here or we want it here. Because here we're using graphics. Yeah. We could also call it graphics. No. Call it renderer, yeah. That makes sense. A renderer is the responsible browse the different primitives of your user interface. And so we're gonna expose graphics backend, actually the whole backend module. And then we're gonna have here the function that actually changes the renderer, returns a task with the result empty or graphics error. In fact, let's expose error here as well. Maybe. And then we pass settings here. We gotta expose settings as well, I guess. Can I explain what I'm doing? So what we're doing is we're trying to make it so that you can configure or change the actual renderer settings while an application is running. So what we're trying to do is, so for example, imagine you started the app and it's using wgpu with a Vulkan backend, but you want to switch to OpenGL. So we want to allow that to happen at runtime. Or you want to switch to software rendering, right? Which I think is going to be easier. Maybe changing wgpu backends doesn't work. But we're surely going to try. Okay, so this has supposed to be task. Lately, I like to use this approach more. Like I import the module and then the type and the module separately. So I can delete the module or the type. I don't know. Channel. Don't know, it kind of makes more sense to me. Change renderer, pass the settings, and the channel over here. Okay, changes the settings of the current renderer. And now I think here in the task, instead of using graphics, we can use renderer and renderer error. Yeah. Okay. Trade is not satisfied because backend doesn't implement default, right? Because we haven't actually imported it. Okay, so now we go to the lib, to the root crate, and we are going to expose renderer. Main renderer is defined multiple times. Oh, I already have it somewhere. Oh, right, because I'm using it for the ice renderer, right? No? Where is it defined then? Oh, ice widget renderer. Yeah, I'm already exposing it. So I guess this is renderer wgpu. Can I remove that? Create graphics. Okay. Okay. I think now I can do this and import backend. Yeah, that works. Okay. Okay. So now in the view, we have a canvas right here. So we're gonna have, this is the solar system. And then we're gonna have the renderer pick list here. Then we're gonna have a stack. We're gonna put solar system in there. And then we're gonna have a container with the renderer, and we're gonna align this to the right and fill, and align to bottom fill. And then we're gonna turn this into whatever, into an element. And we're gonna probably want to put some padding here, or it will look terrible. It will be right next to the border. And now we need to define the pick list, which is the options first, which should be backend all. We've defined this. Then the selected backend should be the current one we have on the state. Then we need a message for the selected backend. Backend selected. Let's actually call this backend. Okay. Here we call it backend selected. Backend. It's not copy anymore. Probably we need to borrow this. Backend to string is not satisfied. Oh, we haven't implemented that yet, right? So here we're gonna have the backend. For now, we're just gonna debug this. Let's see. Graphics backend. Yeah, we need to implement display for backend. And this will be a match over here of f_right string. Well, it's not a string, really, is it? Well, maybe. So for example, here we have a name. Can we just does that work? Okay. Seems to work. API. We need to return the API here. Maybe we just, yeah. Maybe we actually, trying to, yeah, let's just write here and call it. How do we actually explain this? How do we display this? Best backend? Hardware backend? I guess. And then we have the API here. Software. And then here we have custom backend name. Something like that. And now we implement the display for API as well. Match self. And this we can use this pattern here. Best Vulkan metal direct x12. Is there a space? I think so. OpenGL web GPU. Okay. So now we compile the solar system and we should see here. Okay, we have this list with all our backends. Cool. If we choose one, you will not be able to see because of all the wgpu spam, but it's there. It's flashing. The debug is there. Our backend DirectX 12. Right there. Okay, so now what we want to do is fire the task. In the example, instead of debug here, let's add task message. Add a task over here. So here we do nothing, and over here we're gonna use the renderer change over here, renderer settings. And here we're gonna have that. Then we're gonna map the resulting task to a renderer changed. And it's gonna be a result of nothing or a renderer error, which you're gonna get. Yeah. Now we're gonna use the default settings, but we're only gonna change the backend itself, like that. Okay. Then over here, if it's okay and nothing, we should also set the backend here. So we need to probably keep the backend over here so we can actually set it. Like that. And if it's an error, I don't know, we just log it to the terminal. I'm not using log. Okay. Let's introduce it. Log workspace true. Okay. Now here we need to get the result, and we move the backend, the result here, and it's going to complain because we're moving. So we clone this. Backend capture valuable in a. Ain't that it? I got to clone it here too. Yeah, because a task can execute multiple times. Okay. All right, so now if we run this, what is going to happen is that whenever I change this, it's going to crash because we have a to-do, right? Not yet implemented. We have it in our program. So we need to change that. Well, we need to actually implement the fun. But first, let's go to compositor in wgpu and actually set the backends, this backend bits here properly, right? So what we want to check is if the settings backend, well, we're actually rewriting settings here. So wait a sec. Let's put it here. In fact, well, let's keep it that way. Yeah. So we're going to have let backends equal that. And if the backend is best or the backend is hardware backend API best, we're going to have this behavior over here where we're actually going to return this backend bit from environment. And if not, if this produces an option, so if it's not set, we're gonna set it to, well, yeah, let's just return known here, I guess. In every other case, we can return known, I guess. Use create graphics backend, right? And then like let's do backends or backends settings backends equal backends here. Okay, so now if the backend is the best option or backend is hardware but the API is the best, we default to the backend bits from emp or nothing, right? Exposing what in the fallback thing? What do you get confused with exactly? So the fallback is an implementation detail. You should never actually have to rely on any of that. You mean this fallback here? Like whatever the renderer is, doesn't really matter. What only matters that it implements the renderer traits, right? Yeah, well, when you write custom widgets, you should use the core renderer traits. You should use traits. You shouldn't use the renderer fallback, right? So we have traits that are called renderer, and then we have actual renderers that implement those traits. Yes. Maybe we could use different names for those. I don't know. We could maybe, if in the tiny-skia, we could call this renderer tiny-skia, I guess, since the name of the crate is tiny-skia. And in wgpu, we could call it the wgpu. We could. But we have a renderer a renderer crate. So it's all meant to, like, the reason why we overwrite types and we reuse types names, it's because I don't believe that having more names is necessarily less confusing. Like, they're just different versions of the same thing. And so they're very like tightly connected together. So you just go from more generic to less generic, right? So you have first the traits that are renderer, and then you have the type that actually implements those traits. But those types that implement the traits are actually way, 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 way lower in the crate hierarchy, right? So in the core and graphics, you have traits that are generic because they're generic crates. Then in the renderer crates, you have the types that implement that thing. So you have to always keep in mind, what's the crate that I'm using the type from? And that will tell you what's the level of how generic is this thing, right? Okay, we did that, and now this is where the fun begins. We got our settings, and now we're gonna cause some damage. Yeah, so are we passing the compositor here? Yeah, we are passing the compositor. We're passing the window manager. The window manager has a window. The window has a renderer and a surface, right? So what we want is to recreate the surface. Well, drop this surface and this renderer first, and then recreate those with a new compositor. So we want to recreate. First thing we want to do is probably drop the compositor, create a new compositor. Let's try to create a new compositor. With the new settings first. A compatible window. We don't have a compatible window. I mean, we have what we could try to extract a window. We could also create a new window like we do during boot. The chat is super laggy. There's like 30 seconds delay. Yeah, that's because you're on YouTube. If you go to Twitch, you're probably gonna have a way less latency. I think, yeah, I'm still streaming there. Super quick. The thing is that on YouTube, I'm streaming in 4K, so that the streams are stored there with good quality for people to consume later on. But Twitch is at 1080p, so I imagine that the time to process is lower. Should we create a boot window? I say let's go. Let's do it. It's probably the best way. Let's do something like that. I imagine that this on the web is not going to work very well, but why would you even want to change the backend on the web? Maybe I won't even make it available over there. Yeah. Let's see. This is a window creation failed. Let's just assume that this cannot fail. Let's just assume that for now. Because why not, right? Oh, I cannot create a window from here. That's true. That's, damn it. Because I don't have the event loop. Guess I could use one of the open windows. But then you won't be able to actually change the compositor from a daemon. Tricky. Let's use one of the existing windows for now. See what happens. See if it crashes terribly or not. Let's get the first window or something. I think you need to pass raw data escapes outside function. I think that's because I need to pass here. No? Oh, it's a future. Whoa, that's even worse. Oh, true. Creating a compositor is something that needs to happen synchronously. Jeez. That's gonna be interesting. We can block. Let's block. Let's block. Hell yeah. Nothing can stop me. Raw data escapes outside. Yeah, that's because this, right? Can I clone that thing? Probably can, right? Since it's an arc. Window raw is an arc, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so this creates a new compositor with the new settings. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Okay. Okay. OpenGL. Right? wgpu. So our backend. All right. Metal. So it does actually work. I mean, at least it doesn't panic. Right? Well, I cannot see where. I want to think about disabling the logging, to be honest. Yeah, and let's just, whenever we get an error, just debug it for now. See what happens. Okay. So I think that the actual output we were seeing flashing was wgpu creating the thing, creating the stuff. Can we even debug this? I don't think we can. No. But let's say now what we want to do, once we have the compositor, what do we want to do? Just gets the, we're going to iterate all of them. Let's do compositor here. Else return. Let's return over here. This is, of course, not really great, but, you know, the first steps. Well, we haven't actually wired it up all yet, so. So you have the window. So what we need to do now is Wait, it returns two things? The ID, oh, okay. ID and window. Surface, and we're gonna just create new compositor. Well, I guess, do we need to render for this? No. Oh, we need to actually, this returns an okay. Oh. I guess we want to match this. If not, I think this returns a graphical error that we can send. And then returned here. Create surface. We need the window. Window raw clone. Window, do we even have the width? Viewport version, exit and close request. I don't think we have the width. Oh, well, we can get it, right? Wait, what? We can? Where is this? Window. We don't have the viewport of the window. That's where are the viewports? I think it's in state. Yeah, it's in state. So we have viewport version duplicated. Terrible. Terrible. Physical size. Okay. Let size. Window state physical size. Size width. Size height. This needs to be mutable. Okay. We also need to create a renderer for this. New compositor, create renderer. Which I think doesn't need anything. Okay, so we are going to create that. And then finally, we're going to replace the compositor with a new compositor. Boom, right? That should be it. Like, this is how it would go, completely naively about this. Like, if the world was an ideal place, a happy place, this would be it, right? We would just be able to recreate renderers, create surfaces, swap them out. Everything would be beautiful and pretty. We would all be happy, live in harmony. World peace would be achieved. Hell yeah. But we'll see. So I press Vulkan and he panics. It says invalid surface. But why? Yeah. Okay. Let's try another one. Metal. Invalid surface. Why can it? Wait. We haven't actually implemented the backend selection properly. The backend hardware API. In fact, backend best does this. Yeah. This is where we actually have to set different ones. Supposed to be some. And webgpu. I think that should be the last one. Browser webgpu. What is it saying? Match arms having compatible types. Does it? This is a backends. Backends. I'm returning some, right? Construct backends. What am I missing here? You sure? I think the LSP just, yeah, just had a brain fart or something because this is compiling. Let's restart it. Okay, so now if I try to start Metal, it says that, yeah, graphics adapter not found back in GPU. No adapter was found for the options requested. Right. So it says invalid surface, validation error. In GPU core, invalid surface. But we don't know exactly where. So let's add the backtrace to this. And see what's happening. What if I switch to software? Okay, that doesn't work either. Entered unreachable code. Whoa. Where? In geometry. Oh, right. Right, but am I not changing all the renderer instances? I should be. Right, but the geometry, oh, the geometry generated now. Oh. I see. So I made some assumptions in the fallback renderer that assumes that a renderer is just static for the whole execution, but now it can actually change. So the geometry changes when you have a cache. The actual geometry changes because it's not the same to cache things for a software renderer than it is to cache things for. So that may actually be what's happening. Right, I have a bunch of unreachable things here and there. Right. So where is this happening? In 464. So we're here, right? This is the thing. Okay. So I guess the question is, how do we do this? How do we actually reconcile this? So what's happening here is that the renderer has changed from primary to secondary, but the geometry is still primary. So this is what happens. I guess that what we could do is reset the cache, like empty it. But I don't think that would work. We could also, instead of panicking, just do nothing. And like, I'm guessing if we go here to the solar system and we actually clear the caches, that will be fine. I don't know. Nope. There's more stuff. Enter unreachable code. Right, because render with transformation, canvas, program, draw. Why is that? Oh, it's probably because I have to change it here. That's tricky. It's actually tricky because this happens asynchronously, so we don't actually know when the renderer is going to change. Yeah, it has to be done internally. Yeah, that still panics. That's an interesting limitation for sure. What can we do? So technically a cache shouldn't be a problem because we should be able to clear it. Right? We could just put an unreachable here. And here in cache we could just call self secondary known, self primary geometry known, secondary known. How is this unreachable? Oh, I see. I think that we should just have here something like that. Remove the unreachable here. So what's going to happen is if the actual caches don't match with the renderer, we just do nothing. And whenever we recreate the cache, if the previous cache doesn't match the current renderer, we just assume that it doesn't, like, we just assume there is nothing. And so we don't actually we don't try to reuse the previous data. Now this probably could cause some flickering, but I don't know. Let's try it. Okay. It did switch to software. The stars are gone, though. But hey. It goes back to the wgpu. Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, it worked. We just went back and forth. Yay. Epic win. That was cool. Well, at the very least, we've implemented a toggle for toggling software renderer. So that's already valuable, right? Now, we may not be able to switch from OpenGL to whatever. Like Metal doesn't work. OpenGL doesn't work. WebGPU doesn't work. When I click bulk on it, just crashes. Right. I don't know why. It says invalid surface. I guess, I don't know. It's weird because we can actually go from Vulkan to software, back to Vulkan, and it works. But if we try to go from Vulkan to Vulkan, it doesn't work. So I'm guessing there's some timing issue, because we definitely can go with the same window from one to the other, right? So we're not really recreating the window. So I don't know. We need to figure out why that's happening. Also, OpenGL doesn't seem to work in my setup. So we actually cannot test if it works, like changing the actual backend, really. We just can test if it goes to the same. I mean, I guess that we could actually detect if you're trying to go to the same backend somehow and just ignore and not even recreate, but that's a bit more complex. It's not necessary, I think. Okay, yeah. Twitch is going well as well. All right. Hello, everyone on Twitch. First stream here. So, all right. What do we do next? I'm not happy with this flicker here, because this basically means that as long as you don't actually clear the cache, that won't actually work. So ideally, like, it won't display, it won't draw anything, right? So let's say in the solar system, we actually redraw. Oh, that's what's happening. That's why we're not seeing the stars in the software renderer, the background. We switch to software, it disappears because the stars are not being cleared. That cache is just kept as is. So we need to find a way to somehow clear. Whoa, we did just hang. Didn't even close. We need to find a way to clear the cache. How can we even do that? It's interesting. Should it be in load? Nah, it doesn't make sense. I guess we could have a Boolean here. Return if it worked. Return if it's outdated. And then maybe have something else clear it. Not sure. Let's see. Let's see if we try that. This is implemented here in the renderer trait. Geometry render, draw geometry, bool. Returns whether the geometry is compatible with the renderer. And so we need to return true instead. This is the null renderer, tiny-skia. Here we're also gonna return true. Over here. wgpu, true. I'm not sure how this is gonna help though. Where's draw geometry called? Where's draw geometry consumed? I think it's in canvas. Nope. Really? What's canvas using? Should be in canvas. Yeah, right here. Right. That doesn't give us access to the cache though, unfortunately. Wait. There has to be a way, a place where I'm setting the cache itself. Isn't there a renderer cache somewhere? Don't I have a cache implemented here? It's cache. This is the geometry, either primary or secondary. Yeah. Yeah, I have the frame. So whenever I call cache draw, that's where we need to check if it's the renderer or not. Where's cache even implemented? Like whenever in the solar system draw, I have this draw and I have this renderer. Here's where we're gonna check. So this is in graphics, source geometry cache. Right. So here's where we want to simply set it to got the cache for the renderer. Right. I think that what we want to do is we want to check here if renderer, yeah, supports geometry. If it's filled, we pass the current geometry here to supports. If it supports, we return that. If not, we return known. I think. And then we implement that supports geometry operation in the geometry renderer. That's probably, it's probably all we need. We can get rid of this bool over here. And that way, whenever we actually call draw, is when we are gonna reset the actual cache. Yeah, that makes sense. That'll work. Should work. Famous last words. Supports geometry. Oh, this is passing the cache. Return geometry clone. Wait. What is this? T. Yeah, we're passing the geometry cache. We could load it, but load it just to check it. Probably we can just pass the cache. Self geometry as cached cache. Just have that like that. Let's go supports cache. Cache. That it? Mismatched found associated type. Yeah, because I'm borrowing it, right? Right, that works. Returns whether the geometry is compatible with the. Does it return catch the word to catched geometry is compatible with the renderer. All right. Okay. And I think that we can even have the previous unreachable here, because it's not going to happen anymore, I believe. We can just say match self and cache. Self has to be primary. I think this is geometry. Geometry AB. Cache. B cache. There's a lot of type shenanigans here. Renderer. Geometry primary. In fact, we don't actually care about the specifics. All we care is that they match. And this is true. Any other case, it's false. All right. Getting there. This is tiny-skia. Tiny-skia will always return true. Is it geometry cache here? Yeah. We don't return a boolean here, so we just remove that. And here, same thing with wgpu. True. Yeah, here I think I need to make it I think it's A geometry cache and B geometry cache as cached. As cached. Okay. All right. All right. Think we got it. Renderer supports cache with the current geometry. Then we actually return the cache. If not, we return known. Yes, for the previous. But that is not exactly what we want, I think. Because here the previous can also be wrong. If it's empty, I think. So we need to also previous else none. Oh, this is only if it's some. Can you do a filter here? Turns none if the option is none. Otherwise, calls predicate to the wrap value. Predicate returns true or t is the wrap value. Yeah, that should be it. Previous. Renderer supports cache. Previous. Expected reference. Got a double reference. Really? Do I have to do reference here? No. What are these types, man? Renderer, geometry, renderer, geometry as cache. What are we getting? Cache data. The cache data here. Right, it's the data geometry that we want. I think, yeah. Yeah, in fact, we can do filter map, I think. Does it support filter map? No? Option does not support filter map. I thought it should since it's an iterator. Maybe I need to call iter. I probably need to call iterator. Filter map. If cargo, if the linter doesn't complain, I'm not gonna complain either. Okay, does this compile? It does. Okay. So what we're doing now is whenever we draw with a cache, we check if it's empty. We check if the previous is actually, supported. If it's not, we just return known, so we don't actually reuse it. And if it's actually failed, if it supports the cache, then we can actually shortcut and return just loaded if the bounds are the same. And if not, we actually return the geometry itself as the previous one. In any other case, we just clear it. And this should rewrite the cache. This is the case where the cache cannot be used, so we use the previous result. This should work. This should work. Let's see. Yay! The stars are back. Cool. And now I go back to here. Yeah, it works. What I'm seeing is that this pick list isn't changing. It also just completely, if I change to the software backend, it seems to just hang. Like I try to close tiny-skia when it's in the software backend, it just doesn't actually close. I'm not sure why. Why is the backend not changing? I'm setting it properly. This will implement partial equal. Am I not setting this? Oh, right. I know why it doesn't change. We're not sending here, whenever we're done, we're not sending the result back. So we need to send OK and call it a day. Yeah, okay, that works. Super slow, but it works. Let's try release mode. This backend, our backend doesn't work. So our backend, cool. We see some difference in the colors because tiny-skia uses sRGB blending. We can actually enable the web colors feature to have the exact same result in both. Now it's very hard to tell which one's which. I think the sun moves a bit. Moves like a pixel. It's like a pixel bigger with wgpu. Probably because of... I think we are snapping images to the pixel grid by default in wgpu now. So that may be it. Okay. The Vulkan doesn't work. It's crashing on the create surface in Ice Graphics Compositor. So basically, I wonder if that's because we haven't dropped the previous one. It could be. Can we even do that? Can we drop window renderer and drop Windows Surface and then just set them after the fact? Is Rust capable doing this? You can't, right? Because you need ownership to drop this. Cannot move out of window renderer, which is behind a mutable reference. But I'm setting it afterwards, Rust. Can you be nice? Just for once? I mean, I guess is there a way to do this? Is there any, like a mem operation or something? I know there's a replace with thing, but I know there's a swap, stuff like that. Take is cool, but it's not what we want. Replace, but replace doesn't drop the destination. I want the destination to be dropped and then source to be after. I guess we could recreate the whole window manager from scratch, I think. Since it's just aliases and entries. Oh, well, the aliases and entries are gonna be, we'll want to keep the aliases because that's what maps a window with the with winit, with the winit window ID. But we could eventually do that. I'm guessing that's what's going on here. We're trying to create the surface before the other one is dropped. And that is, like, the window already has a surface attached to it. Memtake needs T to implement default. So surface doesn't implement default. We could use an unsave and initialize, or we could like wrap the surface here in an option so we can do option take. But then we have to unwrap the surface every time we want to use it, which is, you know, not great. Can I destruct the surface and renderer out of the window somehow? Well, I need to move them out of the window. Right? I guess it could implement. Let's say we implement this. Let's implement a replace with, and it's just takes mutable self, and let's it takes a closure function mute or something, and we pass a window with ownership, and it returns a window of the same kind, right? And let's say something like this, right? And then we say self entries. Here we have the entries, right? And we can turn this into an iterator, and then we can map it. We have the ID, we have the entry or the window, right? And then we just say window, we apply the function, and here we collect again, and we say self entries. But now we have the problem of this, right? So we're just gonna drain it. Now it doesn't work. But yeah, it should work, right? It's not found for B-tree map. But why? Well, okay. We're gonna take this for sure. We take the self entries, then we actually turn it into an iterator. Can it borrow be as fs mutable? Well, now you can. Okay. So we take the entries, we put an empty B-tree map in there, we iterate over all the entries by ownership, and we can actually implement something here that gives us complete ownership of the window. So we do replace with. Here we're gonna have the window. And so now we can actually run this with ownership of the window. And finally we return a window here. But now we have the problem here that we cannot, window is not declared as mutable. Oh, okay. And it works. Okay. So the borrow checker is capable of actually doing this. That's pretty cool. Like if I removed this, it wouldn't work. But if I add this, it works. So it's capable of knowing that I'm dropping two of the fields here, but I'm assigning them afterwards. So this is safe. Cool. So now, chan. Will this work? Yay! Yes! We did it. Awesome. Software. Come on, open up. We back. Okay. Text 12. Okay. Cool. Now let's show an error on top of here whenever you select the backend and there's an actual error. Because right now, if it's not available, it just doesn't do anything. So let's have a backend error over here, which is going to be an option graphics, well, actually render error. Just call it error. Come on, to keep it simple. And if there's an error, we just set it over here. Some error. And here we are going to clear the error whenever we start, when we change the backend again. Okay. And then here in this pick list, we're going to have a column. With some spacing 10 or something. And here on top, we're going to show text. Well, we're going to do it. We have to do this. We got to do this conditionally. So let's self error. In fact, let's just say error here. Self error map error text. We're gonna show the error here. Do we even have text in? Nope. And we're gonna show color. Let's just red color. And font monospace, of course, because it's an error. Font. And if not, well, that's the error for now. Let's have color here. And so here, it would be cool if we could just do error here, but it doesn't because this is an option. So, yeah. I'm trying to think, should... I wonder if we could. We cannot really do that, right? Like if we could, wouldn't it be nice if we could just say implement from T, from option T for widget, or no, implement from option T, yeah, for element. Wouldn't it be nice? But we can't, I think, because of the foreign types things. Wait, maybe it works? Wait, no way. Wait, this works? Are you kidding me? Nah. It won't work. What? What? Wait, what? Type annotation is needed. Oh, because of the class? Not sure why. What? Okay, wait. But T has to, yeah, T has to implement widget. Yeah. And renderer has to be core renderer. Oh. Wait. This is too good to be true. I don't believe this. What does it say now? Kind of move out. Okay, yeah. Well, that makes sense. As ref. Wait, no way. This compiles? This basically means that we can have columns now with stuff inside like this. And it just works. Well, I mean, of course, it needs actually to infer, but as long as you have an actual option of a widget, I mean, of course, we have to actually implement what this element means, right? But we could easily have an empty widget, completely empty widget implementation. Like empty, and be a struct empty impl widget message theme renderer for empty. So size is shrink. I still wouldn't abuse this because it's still a boxed call. Ideally, the column wouldn't even put that known as an element inside, but this is a good middle ground. Size 0. Draw will do nothing, basically. And here we need to where renderer. All right. But this is only if let sum. Well, actually, we can do value map element new. I'll wrap or else element new empty. Hyperparameter t may not live long enough. Yeah, it needs to be at the very least a, I think. Yeah. This is exactly what space does. Yes. Well, space does at least some layouting. Right? There's an atomic here. Stuff. But it is. The difference is that here I'm in the core crate. While the spaces and widgets, I would have to move space. But I'm still not convinced about this though. About having known, like having an option T be implement element. I'm not sold. I'm pretty sold, but I'm not completely sold. Because it could be abused. I don't know. I don't know if we want to incur. I mean, instead of using push, maybe you want to like an empty node. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Probably. Maybe I'm just nitpicking the performance. The problem is you cannot filter out the known. At least not nicely. You cannot use the column macro to filter out the known. Right? The idea is that now I can have this and it works, and I can have it without and it works. But you can't easily, because column relies on element from, you know? So that's the thing. You can't, I mean, I couldn't figure it out. Like, how can you have a column macro that can have both values that are not option and values that are, and they can all get somehow filtered out, right? Like you would have to rely on iterators hearing with children, I guess. And somehow you can't know if this X is an option or not in a macro, in a normal macro. I guess we would need a proc macro, and I don't want to have a proc macro at all. Like I refuse. But yeah, okay, we have the error here. Let's see what happens. We run this. So I try metal. Okay, it just shows the whole thing. That's not a very readable error, but I guess that's what we're doing. I gotta move this to the right. And the error should be small size. 12 maybe. Multiple errors occurred. Yeah. I guess if I can change the implementation of the error here. Multiple errors occurred. Can I just somehow just show that? No. How can I imagine I have does this error have some way of having a list of errors and say, I want these commas separated? Probably not, right? I don't think so. The shorthands can be used together with any additional format args. Is there a format argument to you have a bag or a slice? I don't think so. Splice. No, that's not it. Yeah, I don't think so. I could use this, I guess. But I don't think you can execute a function. Can I? Wait, here, first char dot 0. How is he getting this? Is it a function? Okay, so maybe I can do error list dot 0. Okay. Function error list. Error spec error. Here's a string. Oh, return. Okay, it passes a reference. Okay. Errors map iter map to string So you can join. I have to collect them into a bag first. And then I have to join over comma or something. Not super great, but yeah. You could experiment with impl into option T, since T will be sum. You could pair that with push maybe. I think someone tried that and yeah, we didn't. I think there's like a problem. I think it needs specialization. But I don't know if this is better. A suitable graphics adapter device cannot be found. Maybe we should use reason here. Reason doesn't implement display. Use a new line. Okay. Let's make it a bit shorter over here. Implement display for this. Did not match the preference. Yeah. Have a break line in there. Request failed. Okay. Error. Right. F right string error, I guess. Just trying to make the error a bit nicer. Press adapter options, power preference, low power, force fallback. Okay, for the options requested. Who's setting this? Is it wgpu? Yeah. No adapter was found for the options requested. Okay. I mean, that's good enough, I think. Suitable adapters could not be found. No adapter was found for the options requested. Quest adapter options. Power preference, low power force. Why is this happening twice? Why are we getting 2 errors here? This is weird. We should only be getting 1 error. Because it's trying low power first. I think it's trying low power first. Or something. That's strange because we are setting anti-aliasing in solar system to true. Oh, no, we're not. Huh. Anti-aliasing. Well, it's still trying low power. Got no clue why is these request adapter options there even to begin with. I think there's a bug in the creation. Multiple, where's the multiple errors even being produced? This list. In the fallback. Only in the fallback. So it's trying the first one and it's trying the secondary one. Yeah, but why is the secondary one? That doesn't make sense. The secondary one is tiny-skia, so. I'm not sure why would it. Oh. Could it be that when I try. Yeah, when I try to create this, first tries wgpu and then tries tiny-skia. Right. Request adapter options, power preference, force follow. Yeah, I think that the problem is we're not including here the hardware backend. This is wgpu, this is tiny-skia. But yeah, we can work on the errors eventually. Use format to build up a string from an iterator. What should I use? Oh no, you're gonna tell me to use. No, you're telling me to mutate a string and append to it directly. That's sad. That is terrible. Come on, don't make me do that. Look how beautiful this is. Now I have to do this thing, this weird thing, you know. Look okay, whatever. How is it? Append? Push? Sure, I can fold. It's the same thing. I mean, I think that if I fold, push string doesn't return string, right? So, yeah, I think this is more natural. You gotta do that. I think that is what it wanted me to do. Instead of using format. The thing is that push string doesn't return string, right? So, yeah. Folding would be similar, but I would have to put the list here. I think that's better. If you're gonna use mutation anyways. Okay, you want me to even use a character here. Jeez, Flippy. What else? 57? Okay. Match expression looks like matches macro. Yeah, you're right. You're right there. You're right there. What line? 430. Matches. Self. That. Self. Cache. That it? No. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now what we haven't tried is to change the actual default font. Let's try that on the tour. Just very quickly. I don't know why does tiny-skia not close? We have to does this happen with if I open it normally? Huh. Okay. There is a weird bug. When we switch the renderer to tiny-skia and then we try to close the application, it doesn't close. I don't know why, but that's a bug for sure. But the tour, we could like, let's add a button that just changes the font or something. Just real quick. Just want to test this real quick. Let's put it on the welcome screen or something. Push button. Change font. Press message, change font. Like that. Wait, the tour doesn't return a task, right? Task message. Task none here. Return iced renderer change. Iced renderer settings. We're gonna use the default font, monospace, and the default text size is we're gonna make it bigger, like 20. Seems to be pixels. Oh yeah, and let's discard the actual return value. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Change font over here. It doesn't change the font. We failed. Oh, okay, it did now. Is that because I'm not calling view again? Yeah, I think so. Change the font. It changes when I change the view. It's not that I'm not calling view, is that maybe it is. No. Is that changing the font should invalidate the font system so that the paragraphs. Right. Okay. Well, it does work. Just doesn't invalidate the caches. But that's solvable. So now you can even change the default font at runtime. That's cool. All right. Okay, I'm gonna do this. Just wanted to test it real quick. Let's commit these changes for now. Implement renderer change task for, I think it should be maybe change settings, maybe. or configure. I don't know. Draft render change task for configuring the renderer at runtime. Make sure that everything passes. And push. All right. Oh, well, that was pretty successful, I would say. We have to iron out some things, but yeah, that's cool. Now you can disable anti-aliasing, change the default font, even change the backend completely. And we are doing it in the most naive possible way. Of course, we haven't yet tested if the backend, the wgpu backend can actually change from one instance to another, because I'm on Linux, but I'll have to test it on Windows, where I think you have available. You have DirectX 12, you have Vulkan, and you have OpenGL, right? It's probably the OS where you have most backends available. That Clippy Foreman lint suggests write with fold. Really? Maybe that's better. I don't know. Let me see if I find the... Can I find the lint? Oh, no, I can't. Yeah. So how's that work? Oh, okay, thanks. Use instead... But I don't like the fact that you're like dropping a result here. Like, I don't know. That just doesn't look cool. Like, this seems better. There are no errors involved here. That's just terrible. Hard to read. I don't like fold. I like fold when you actually have a functional language, right? And you have actual operations. So if push string actually, if this looked like this, or something, and this return a string, then sure, let's fold, right? That makes sense. But it doesn't. So keep it that way. Anyways, people, I think I'm gonna call it for today. Pretty happy with how this stream went. Thank you for watching, and I don't know, probably we'll be back soon, maybe tomorrow. We'll see. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Godspeed.